and the new year. How are you managing? How are you getting along? And what things are really going to be on your proverbial plate to accomplish and tackle this year? This week on A Balanced Life, we're talking to our subject matter experts on really how do you settle yourself to move into the new year? Make sure that you are on the right path and track, while at the same time not allowing yourself to be distracted by the things that are going on around you. We're joined today by Pam Sams, Charlotte Avery, Dr. Tierney, and Levita Marshall. Welcome in, ladies.
Hello, hello.
Hello. Oh my goodness, it is the new year. And I have to say, are you ready? Are you ready?
Ready as can be.
Ready.
I know. So I'm just going to start with this. I have to be honest that, as we think about what 2026 is going to bring, I think it's important for us to talk about how individual persons really settle into this year, while at the same time taking a 2025 look, a recap, if you will, of what are some of the residual things that people are going to be bringing in, to the new year. I recognize that not everything is all, pie in the sky and rainbows and sprinkles, because 2025 took us for a serious loop. So I'm going to start with Dr. Tierney. Dr. T, what type of residual things do you believe or have you seen that people are bringing into the new year that they really need to tap into and address before they start working on their vision boards and their plans and all these other fancy things to lay their foundation?
Yeah. You bring up a very, very important point in that 2025 kind of took us all for a loop. We did not start January 2025 thinking that 2025 was going to do us that way. So one of the things that, and this is a personal thing for myself, that I really want us to focus in on is to take a look at our grief. There's a lot of plans that we made at the top of 2025, a lot of things that we thought we were going to do that it didn't plan out that way. And oftentimes when we hear grief, we only put it in the box of grief of losing a loved one. And some of us did lose loved ones, myself included, in 2025. But as we step into 2026, what were those plans that just didn't work out? Some of us lost jobs. Some of us lost just the sense of who we thought we were, and our identity. So grief is just mourning the loss of anything, and so making sure that we are really taking a really long look at our grief. What are we grieving? Because if we don't, then we'll be dragging that stuff into 2026, wondering why I get up and go, then got up and went, and it's over here in this bag of grief that we hadn't even began to unpack because we thought it was only when we are grieving the loss of a loved one. But grief is so expansive and it can show up in a number of different ways. So you can still be going to work. You can still have moments where you're laughing and doing all the things and still be grieving. I recently put up a post where I was just talking about that. Like it can come in so many different shapes and forms and sizes. So it's really important that we take a minute, stop, and look at what am I grieving and what is this grief? How is it changing me? How is it showing up? How is it impacting me as I get ready to go into 2026?
I think that is extremely valid because everyone is experiencing something different. Levita, what are some of the residue or residual things that people may be holding on to that they really need to take account of and say, you know what, that was then and this is now?
Just to kind of piggyback on what Dr. T was saying, how some television shows will do like that whole year in review? And they'll go back and you'll have these wonderful specials about, everything that happened over the year. I think we kind of really need to do that in our lives too. We need to take stock on, let's go back and look at this whole year in review and, take into account the good, the bad, and the ugly. And how do I process that? What do I want to do with all of that? There were some good things that happened. There were some bad things that happened and just some downright ugly things, that happened in that year. But I think I kind of take it from that standpoint of, I'm going to look back at a whole year in review and how did this shape me? How did this, mold me? What did this catapult me into doing something different? And I think that's a great place to start when you're looking at, new beginnings. It's always a great time, always a new beginning when a new year happens. I think that's a great place to start.
Starting points aren't always easy. And, sometimes people just center like it's like double dutch. It's like I'm waiting for my turn to jump in. I'm waiting for my turn to jump in. But yet I'm holding on to things that don't allow me, because the weightiness of my life, the weightiness of, the previous year just kind of keeps attaching itself. Charlotte, Avery, talk to us about that a little bit, because, trying to move forward in life, oftentimes we come kicking and screaming. And other times we just want to put our heads on the cover and say, I'm going to just tap out right about now. I'm going to wait and see how the year starts, and then maybe I'll jump in.
Yeah. So, I think here's the thing. There's a saying that what you don't deal with will deal with you. And so I think going into going into this new year, it really comes down to, what did you not deal with in 2025? I mean, a lot, like you guys have said, a lot of things happened in 2025. So many things that we did not expect. And so much fear mongering and things that have happened. And people really need to deal with that, because let's be real. I don't care how strong of a person you are. There are a lot of things that happen in 2025 that I think give us a level, all of us to some degree, a level of fear, because some people thought that they weren't going to be impacted by certain things that happened in 2025, only to know that we're going into, here we are in 2026, and now we're dealing with some stuff that we didn't think were going to impact us. And some of the things that we didn't feel we were going to be impacted by, we are now impacted by, because things have happened to the people that we know, people that we love, people who we thought we trusted, people who we thought we believed in. And so when it comes to that, it's really being able to look at it and say, whatever I did not deal with in 2025, whatever came about, I really need to dig deep right now at the top of the year and really dig deep and work on those things and let go of those things, so that the rest of 2026, so that I can be prepared and be able to prosper and be able to move on and just be able to aspire to some other things in this year, to be able to throw out the negative, to look at the positive, and really decide for ourselves, how are we going to take those things and turn them into good.
All very valid. This yo-yo effect, Pam, that people are experiencing right now. And I know I always come to you about money. So feel free to talk about, and share from both perspectives, because, just as we were coming out of 2025, we saw this notification that people in the civil office rights were going to be able to come to work, but they still weren't guaranteeing them full reemployment. It's like, oh yeah, we want you to come in and handle these cases because things are not going well. So people who are trying to decide, do I keep my job? Do I leave my job? That is giving them a bad taste. But then how many of them feel like they've been burnt? They've been burned. It's like, oh, do I go back if they call me back? Do I not go back? Do I put my eggs in this basket again? I mean, that is a lot of baggage to carry. And I know that residue is hanging with people really strong, because it's like, I like my government job, but I don't like the way it makes me feel. It's just a lot.
Yeah, it's a lot going on. I mean, 2025 threw everybody for a loop. We started at the beginning of the year with massive layoffs with Doge, and then we had a furlough. So definitely financially, a lot of people have been impacted and really had to pivot to figure out, what do I do now? Do I, like you say, do I go back to something that may or may not come to fruition for the long term? Because you have to do what you got to do financially. So some people do go back. I have a lot of my clients on pins and needles on being what they call administrative for the 30-day period or the 60-day period or the 90-day period. Do I have something that's going to be certain after that particular period? So a lot of times, with 2025, there was a come to Jesus moment with a lot of people with their finances. It really uncovered a lot of vulnerability, so to speak, with their finances. So what I tell people, especially going into a new year, because everybody do New Year's resolutions towards the beginning, and finances is generally at the top of that list, is really to do a recap. I call it an executive summary. What happened last year as a recap? What are the good, the bad, the ugly? What do you want to change? And then, looking at that 10,000 foot overview of what happened, and then what do you want to do differently? And then mapping out a game plan for that.
Also very true. When we think about this expectations audit and how people are going to navigate, the first quarter of this new year, 2026 is here. 2025 taught us a lot of things, not only about the people in our spaces, but it taught a lot of us about us. It's like, who am I as a person? Do I really know what I'm doing, and how do I get there? And so this expectations audit, Dr. Tierney, if you would, each of you go around, what is one thing in an expectation audit that people should really, take a close look at for themselves just before we go into this break? What is that one thing that they should take a close look at?
Their patterns. What are your patterns? What are those things? And it could show up in different areas of your life, but we all have a pattern of how we handle things, how we address things. Do you pop off? Is that your pattern? What is your pattern?
Absolutely. Levita.
I think you need to look at unrealistic expectations. And because a lot of times we have this gap between the ideals that we have and the reality that's in our life. And we have a lot of self-imposed pressures. And I think we need to really take stock and look at all those pressures we put on ourselves unnecessarily.
Absolutely. Charlotte Avery.
We should look at our holistic health, where we are mentally, emotionally, physically, psychologically, and wherever we need that support, reach out and seek to get that.
Absolutely. Pam Sams.
I would say your behaviors, what you're going to do, how you do one thing is how you do everything. That's what I say. So really monitoring and looking at our behaviors.
Absolutely. When we come back after the break, let's dive into each of those things just a little bit more. We think about who we are, where we're going, and what we do. But when we come back after the break, let's talk about clarifying some of those expectations. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Welcome back, everyone. As you can tell, there's a lot going on in each of our lives. And so when we consider how we do what we do, when we consider, what's going on, the battle for balance actually happens in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's not about work life. It's not about all of those other things that are happening day to day. How do I time this? How do I schedule that? It's really, what are my expectations and aspirations?
Mm-hmm.
Why am I having such a difficulty trying to clarify where I want to go next? Who am I in this new year? And what am I going to do with myself? Dr. Tierney, talk to us about how do people start to begin to clarify expectations so they don't flame out and burn out?
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good. And that's why in the last segment, I asked, or when you asked for that one word, I said patterns, because what are your thought patterns? What are your emotional patterns? Because then that drives our behavior patterns. A lot of us are self-sabotaging out here because we're not taking a second to look at how we think about things. What are those beliefs that you're continuing to hold on to? Because that is what's showing up across the different areas of your life. It's showing up in your finances. It's showing up in your professional. It's showing up in your relationships. But when we don't take a second to look at those patterns in our thoughts, those patterns in our emotions, you get mad every time somebody says something, to you, your whole day is just thrown off. The minute you are inconvenienced a little bit, you have a tendency to hold on to every feeling, every emotion, every slight. You think everybody is out to get you. Those are patterns, and oftentimes we learn those patterns at a very young age. And so we normalize them. So it's really hard to see them. Now, this is where, y'all know I got to get on my soapbox at least one time. This is where you having a coach or a therapist is important because someone external to you can help you point out your patterns. So when you are trying to start this new thing or reach this next level in your life and you're not getting there, 9 times out of 10, the culprit is in your patterns. It's in something that you're continuing to believe, some stinking thinking, some type of emotional, mental pattern that you have that you learned very early that you normalize because everybody in your family think the same way where you grew up. And that's just how we do things. That pattern is what's keeping you stuck. That pattern is what's keeping you on this emotional roller coaster, on the hamster wheel of sorts. So making sure that we are taking the time to look at our patterns, look at how we are thinking, how we are feeling, because then that is going to dictate what we actually do or don't do.
Absolutely. Pam Sams, expound for us on your one word.
Yes, really just to piggyback Dr. T, is really comes down to what are your patterns and your behaviors, how you're going to move about the world. From a financial standpoint, that's where I take it is that every time, like I said, in the beginning of each year, people have, really good intentions. I'm going to do better with my money. By end of January, early February, that has went out the window. So what do you want to achieve with your money will really dictate your behaviors. If you want to start saving, let's say, for example, for retirement, you can't be out, really just throwing all your dollars every day. It really depends on the behaviors, on what you want to save towards and what your values are. So I do a values-based exercise with my clients, and that kind of dictates where their behaviors fall. So if you want to retire early, or you're going to be, spendthrift right now when you should be saving more money. So the behaviors is really dictates how you move in the world, and especially with your finances, what I deal with, really looking at and monitoring where people say their values are and what their behaviors dictate.
I think that's important because when we think about how do we clarify these true aspirations we have, there has to be some level of discipline, Charlotte Avery, attached, to what you want your outcomes to be, how you're going to get there. Talk to us about that, a little bit. In how do people really begin to clarify their true aspirations and get away from the expectations that other people may have for them?
Man, that is so good. That is like a really, really good question. And for some people that might sound really loaded, but a lot of times, even as adults, we do, sometimes we do a lot of people pleasing, and we go to, what people want or what people think are best for me or what I see going on around me. And so because it's good for them, it has to be good for me, when in actuality, it's not. And so you have to be really true to yourself. And you've really got to be able to, like Ms. Pam was talking about doing financial inventories, and, Dr. Tierney was talking about patterns. You've got to really be able to do a personal inventory, to thine own self be true, not to thine own others, but to thine own self. And you have to be okay with being true to yourself, because when you are true to yourself, then you start to be able to let go of what other people's expectations and aspirations are of you, when you can actually really say, you know what, this is really true to who I am. It's not because it looks good or feels good for somebody else, but does it really feel true to me? And one thing I find is that as women, in general, that can be really, really difficult. But we are really in a season where if you haven't really done the work to dig deep within you, to really discover and find you and really do that personal work, then you are going to be going around on that hamster wheel that Dr. Tierney is talking about. And it's time to get off of it. So do your work. Do your work.
I love that, because so she pointed that finger at the people. She really meant y'all out there and us over here as well, to do your work, the work that is for you to do on your personal self, so that you can find your lane. Some people have such a hard time finding their space. Forget about staying in a lane. They're like all over the highway, trying to figure out who they are. They don't know what it means to seek clarity. And I'm coming to the Bible teacher, Levita Marshall, because I think it's important that from a faith perspective and how we're taught about, governing ourselves accordingly, using our gifts and being where we're supposed to be, that is a way for people to find their lane. So in this realm of, clarifying expectations, how do we listen and discover, expectations that could be a part of God's plan, for our lives?
Right. So, we all have a set of core values that we live by, that we ascribe to. And so often, what happens when we get on, that crazy hamster wheel and can't really decide what's going on, because we're making decisions that don't align with those core values. That's one thing that's happening. And so you're getting into this place where I said earlier, where you have these self-imposed pressures that you really are just very unnecessary. You don't need to be in that place. So you need to stay in that place where, hey, I'm going to be authentic in my priorities, in the core values that I know that have been guiding my life. And so we need to, one thing that, we need to do is come back, recenter, refocus, and just prioritize those values in your life. You make decisions according to that. Another thing that I want to bring kind of into the education realm, because I'm an educator, by career, letting go and adjusting your expectations. So one thing that we did in the classroom as a classroom teacher, we were taught that when you're in the midst of a lesson, sometimes you have to do what's called monitor and adjust. Because sometimes you have the most elaborate lesson plans. Oh my goodness, they look so good on paper. And when you get in front of that classroom of children and you start doing your thing and they're all looking like, what in the world is happening? What are you talking about? And you realize, okay, yeah, no one is getting this but me. That is the time you need to take a look around. You need to monitor the situation, and you need to quickly make an adjustment and pivot to something that is going to work. And so that's another thing that we do. I just love that. My goodness, I learned that back in 1996 when I first had my first classroom, but I still monitor and adjust. You monitor your situation, you adjust accordingly, and you pivot. So don't think that, I think sometimes we heard growing up that, no, don't quit. You stay the course on this thing. Not necessarily. Like if I were to just stay the course in my classroom, I'd be the only one getting the lesson, and 25 kids still don't understand that apple sound. And so, yes, monitor and adjust.
I love that. That's going to be the tweet for today. Monitor and adjust.
Exactly.
That is real. That is so real. And I just want to say, even though it's not my time to say anything, but I just want to piggyback.
Your time to say something. We're going to keep it just like this.
I want to piggyback on that because sometimes we think adjustment is bad.
I know.
Right.
And adjusting is good. Adjusting will keep you sane. Adjusting will help you not to kirk out and lose your mind.
Mhm.
And it'll keep you from being so overly stressed because you're continuing to go and go and go because you're afraid to adjust. You're afraid to pivot. And I love that. I love that so much. Good job, Lavita. Good job.
It looks like quitting, but it's not. It's not quitting.
Mhm.
It's taking a different route. I think you have to be disciplined enough. You think, ladies, sometimes to say, you know what, I need to, skirt, go this direction and go another direction. As Dr. T always say, pump your brakes.
But the whole thing with that, in order for us to be able to do that, because what I keep hearing is, I need to adjust. I need to. Do you know your I? A lot of people are afraid to adjust and are stuck in these patterns of people pleasing and these expectations because they haven't sat with their I. They don't know themselves. So they are doing and doing and doing and doing, and they hadn't sat down to say, wait a minute, who am I after all of this didn't happen in 2025? What do I need? What feels good to me? So a lot of that is required in order to monitor and adjust. And a lot of people don't have it because they hadn't sat still long enough with themselves to know thyself, to thine own self be true. You know yourself. You have to know yourself, and you have to be able to know what your limitations are. You have to be able to call yourself out on your own BS and know that this is the season that I'm in. I can no longer do that. I can no longer eat that. I no longer need that. You have to know yourself in order to be able to monitor and adjust.
Come on here.
Be able to have the confidence to be able to stand flat-footed and look somebody square eyeball to eyeball, even if it is your mama, even if it is your daddy, even if it is your husband or wife. No, that takes confidence, and you only get that confidence from knowing who you are and whose you are. So sugar, you don't do nothing else at the start of this year, get to know you, because that's the only way you're going to be able to monitor and adjust.
Absolutely. Get several snaps on that. Let's run back to a break, because let me tell you, when we come back after our break, we're going to talk about that very thing. You're on a bridge to somewhere, nowhere, or anywhere when you don't have you together. We'll be back in a moment after the break.
They said the quiet part out loud. Black votes are a threat, so they erased them. After the Supreme Court gutted the Voting Rights Act in 2013, Republican legislatures moved fast. New voter ID laws, polling place shutdowns, purges of black voters from the rolls. Trump's Justice Department didn't stop it, they joined in. In 2018, his DOJ backed Ohio's voter purge system, a scheme that disproportionately erased black voters. Their goal, erase black votes and political power. Yeah, that happened. These are the kinds of stories that we cover every day on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Subscribe on YouTube and download the Black Star Network app. Support fact-based independent journalism that centers African Americans and the issues that matter to our community.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can tell, Dr. T is on fire, and she is telling the truth. You have to get to know who you are first. So ladies, let's talk about that for a moment. When people wake up and they look in the mirror, Charlotte Avery, go. Talk to yourself, because sometimes you need to talk to you and stop calling, texting, tweeting, and letting everybody else know what they're not doing. But how do you check yourself?
So first of all, I'm always checking myself, and I'm always laughing at myself, and I'm always trying to get myself all the way together, because one thing I know is I'm not perfect, but I am perfectly who I am. And so when it comes to these types of things and really doing the self-talk that I need to do, like I have to talk to all facets of me, of myself. I have to talk to all the facets of me as a woman, as a wife, as a mother, as an entrepreneur, as an author. I have to deal with all aspects of who I am. And so, when it comes to me being fully who I am, it always goes back to one thing that Lavita was talking about is the God in me, like who I am, whose I am, but not just who I am for all of these people, but who I am fully for myself. Because what happens is in the world of woman, we get so caught up in, we don't really know who we are because we think we're this caricature of I'm his wife, I'm their mom, I'm this to this person being their coach or whatever. And then it's like you become a caricature instead of really being you. And so for me, one thing I always tell myself, I look in the mirror and I tell myself, Charlotte, you are a bad mama jamma. And I know this for a fact because there's no way that I could have a husband and 7 children and do all the things that I do. I don't tell myself that because I'm bigging myself up, even though I am. I'm telling myself that because it is true to who I am. And so I am very clear about me being a woman of God and a woman of faith. And when it comes to, being the for real virtuous woman, yes, my children will rise up and call me blessed, but not because and yes, I am. I actually do know that I am more precious than rubies. I don't even need anybody to tell me that. You know what I'm saying? So when people are saying, oh, your children will, yes, they should. They will, because I've done a lot. Amen. I've been through a lot. We've been through a lot. But I give so much of me, but I also do a good job of while I'm giving, I have learned the art of pouring back into myself so that I can actually have the conversations that we're having right now. Mm-hmm. And that also goes back to doing your work, because when you do your work, you can actually look and say, I had this coach and she always talks about dumping your day. And so I can even on a bad day, I can say, you know what, today really sucked, but I'm still a bad mama jamma.
Mm-hmm. I like that. I think that's
see how that works.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm gonna ask Pam this question because we always come to Pam when it talks about money. But Pam, you work with some busy women. How are you helping women keep it together? And when you look in the mirror, what do you tell yourself? And then what do you tell them to tell themselves?
What I tell myself in the mirror, depending on the day. So some days I'm like, Pam, get it together, because you may not have, the energy that day to pour into others. So really, how do I get myself together? So I always speak to myself in the third person. Pam, get yourself together. But in terms of what I teach other women is really, I tell them to, especially busy professional women, you don't have to be all things to everybody. You can be all things to a few people. And to give yourself some grace as you're going through it. You may make mistakes or you may not have all the answers. Don't beat yourself up about it. Really talk to yourself and say, hey, I have, these gifts and this is what I have to offer. Don't people please, and don't think you have to have all the answers, because we don't have all the answers. So really give yourself some grace as you go through. But, have those conversations with yourself in the mirror. The days that, just like Charlotte said, you tell yourself, I'm a bad mama jamma, or for me, I said, I'm going to be great today. You tell yourself those positive affirmations, but when you don't have it together, tell yourself, get yourself together.
I love that.
Yeah, that girl, in the words of the late Angie Stone, that is easier said than done. Getting yourself together. Lavita, what are you telling yourself when you look in the mirror?
Well, I love the idea of giving yourself grace. I definitely do that. And another term is just self-compassion. Do you have self-compassion, for yourself? And like Charlotte was saying, my goodness, all the stuff you've been through. Do you have self-compassion? And then just allowing yourself to focus on the controllables in your life. Focus on what we can control. Giving yourself that, mental flexibility and adaptability. That's that whole monitor and adjust. So you're allowing yourself to be flexible and to be adaptable to changing situations like we've seen, right, in 2025. And something that I do is I try to just, when you get into that place, just kind of focus on activities that will build up my confidence. Focus on activities that will, build success. That's something that we even taught our kids. And even from kids to adults, you want to do things. If you have like a long list of things to do and you have like a hard day ahead of you or a hard week, you actually want to start with like the thing where you know you're going to have a semblance of success, right? Because what does it do? It motivates you. It helps you propel forward, to the next thing. And so those are some of the things that I like to do.
I think that all of those things are important. Before I go to Dr. Tierney, because I'm just going to let her have the last few minutes of this walk, let me just say, for me, I tell myself in the morning, be free. And I will tell you why. I say be free. I look in the mirror and I say, what decisions do you have to make today? And if I am not, as y'all have said about being the person who is the final decision maker, I literally free myself from that situation and that scenario, because the onus is not on me. So why am I stressing myself out all day about what somebody else is going to decide and how something else may turn out? I'm not the final decision maker. So I free myself from all worry, angst, and anxiety about things that technically don't have anything to do with how I govern me. I think that's the first thing. And then I think I free myself from other people's feelings and emotions when I do have to make a decision. Mm-hmm. So it's good for the company, it's good for the organization, it's good for my health, and it's going to be good for other people's health. So I free myself from being concerned about repercussions, because those things, they don't concern me, because then I'm going to turn around and think of a contingency plan, because I do have compassion for other people. But at the same time, when the weight is off your shoulders of carrying others' burdens, free to live your day and use that time in other ways, because we spend more time worrying than we do doing. And that's what I tell myself when I look in the mirror. So I went on and did mine, because y'all like to charge me up, like, and what's yours after we finish a block. So Dr. Tierney, y'all see, I'm guilty as charged. Dr. Tierney, talk to us about what we're telling ourselves in the mirror, and what are you telling yourself?
Oh, I tell myself all kind of stuff. I literally, like, no joke, I look in the mirror and I talk to me just like I'm talking to you, so it depends on what's happening, what the day is, what I have in front of me, and what I've been able to walk through and grow through and glow through. So some days I look in the mirror and I say, okay, girl, it's okay. You're safe. Because this world doesn't often feel safe for me, as a Black woman, we have a lot that we have to face. And so I look in the mirror and say, it's okay. You're safe. You're okay. You can, we're going to get through this. You're doing a really good job. Some days I have to big up myself and I'm like, you doing a good job. You doing a good job.
Amen, girl.
So sometimes I look in the mirror and I'm like, ma'am, what are you doing? Come on. But the thing is, I don't say anything to myself that I wouldn't say to you. The way that I talk to myself is the same way that I would talk to my clients, that I would talk to a loved one. I don't allow myself to have any excuses. I don't allow my clients to have any excuses. Whatever is happening, whatever, we have to face it head on. Just to give you a very quick example, a very personal example. You guys know that recently I lost my grandfather and everything I'm walking through with my grandmother. And after about, I would say for about 2-3 weeks, that grief was on me like a coat, and I walked past my laundry like 3 or 4 times, And so one morning I just looked in the mirror. I said, okay, girl, this is not okay. You're starting to slip. What do you need? What do we need to do? How do we need to love us better in this moment? And so I took myself right on to the doctor to have a conversation about needing some help in navigating this season of grief. Walk through, and having that honest conversation. There's no shame in getting the assistance that you need. It's no shame if you need medication. I did not give myself the excuse. I had to hold myself accountable. But it came from me looking in the mirror and having a conversation with myself, not beating myself up, not saying, oh, you should have been and did that laundry. No. Sugar, what's going on with you? What's happening? What are you feeling? What are you thinking? And so when I look in the mirror, I come to my mirror with compassion. I come to my mirror with love, because I love me. And no one is going to take care of me the way that I can take care of me. Amen. That's my responsibility. And anybody else that loves me, that's just icing on the cake that I've already baked for myself. When I look in the mirror, that is what I'm showing up with, regardless if I'm holding myself accountable, having a hard conversation with myself, or if I'm over here celebrating myself like, girl, you look good today. All right, Shug, it is. Whatever it is, I'm making sure that I show up to my mirror with love.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I think that it's important that everybody recognizes that they are the cherry on top of their own lives.
Yes.
Back after the break, let's talk about that for a moment. How do we sustain who we are and where we're going, but also how do we continue to give ourselves permission to just be who you are? We'll be back in a moment after the break.
Hey y'all, welcome to The Other Side of Change, only on the Black Star Network and hosted by myself, Bria Baker, and my good sis, Jamira Burley. We are just two millennial women tackling everything at the intersection of politics, gender, and pop culture.
And we don't just settle for commentary. This is about solution-driven dialogue to get us to the world as it could be and not just as it is.
Watch us on the Black Star Network, so tune in to The Other Side of Change.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can tell, learning how to sustain this life of not just balance, but the battle for the mind, the battle for your attention, the battle for all of those things that keep you stirred up with knots on the inside. 26 is going to be your year to allow you to just guide yourself down a path of what works best for you. So everybody, let's talk about it. Physically, mentally, socially, financially, spiritually, all of those areas in which we find ourselves. Ladies, let's dive into this serious conversation about how do we confirm who we are, commit to what we need to be doing, create a space that is just for us to live our lives on our terms. I do honestly think that 2026 is the year for people to just say, you know what? They got this. Let me do me, boo. And I know that may sound bad, but at the end of the day, is that really where we are? Pam Sams, is that where we are? Just do you, boo.
Do you, boo?
That's what I tell people all the time. Just do you, walk your path. Especially in the financial world, is so many people that want to keep up with the Joneses and do, what their neighbor's doing and what their coworkers doing and all of that sort of thing. And I said, is that going to get you to your goals? Looking at what they have and you should have. So really judging and it's like, I don't have this, or, I always say comparison is a thief of joy. Do not compare yourself to other people.
Yes.
Walk your own path, know what you need to do, and give yourself the opportunity to say, hey, I can't hang out this time. I'm saving X amount of dollars for this. You can't go to every party. You can't go to every brunch, all of those things, because you know what you need to do in order to reach your goals. So that's what I say. Do you, boo, and really no comparison.
No comparison. Yes, another Angie Stone line that also is easier said than done.
This must be Angie Stone today.
I loved Angie Stone. That's my girl. I love all her music, but I do think that it's sort of fitting because we as women, especially Black people in particular, we put ourselves on the back burner all the time. So we never get to this anchoring space. So we never really do get to sustainability because we're not anchoring ourselves toward or for anything. Charlotte Avery talked to us about that a little bit, because in doing yourself, you also have to make certain that you can hold on to the good that you found and the good that you've created for your life space.
You really do. And you also have to remember and identify what are those things that are stealing your good or trying to steal your joy, so that you can recover, so that you can react and recover. Because what will happen is, Pam was saying, that there's so many things and so many people doing so many different things around you that you can really get this, trying to keep up with the Joneses. You don't even know the Joneses. You don't know them. And the Joneses aren't even thinking about you. So why are you trying to keep up with them in the first place? And you don't know what the Joneses have sacrificed. Like, if you really knew the Joneses sacrifice, do you even have it? Are you even built for that level of sacrifice and what they have endured? Like, okay, they've got millions, but how broke were they before they got there? Are you ready to live that level of brokenness before you get to where the Joneses are? And how much of the Joneses is really just a cover in the front? Like, you know, so much of our conversation today has really been about to thine own self be true. And I hope our audience is really like, as we're continuing to go through this, I hope they're really like getting a notepad and writing some things down, because we have been saying so many pivotal things that really have nothing to do with external factors, but have everything to do with the internal. It has everything to do with not the enemy, but the enemy. And so my thing is really, really, you know, deal with what's going to bring you joy. There are some things that you did not accomplish that really meant something to you. Like for me, let me just talk about myself. I really wanted to finish writing my next book in 2025. I didn't do that, but I'm not kicking myself and just, you know, being like, oh man, Charlotte, you didn't like get your book done. No, I thank God for the gift of time to be able to press towards the mark for the prize, but I'm not allowing anybody to make me feel bad about something that I didn't accomplish. I know what I need to do, just like you know what you need to do. Pick it up and get to work. You can do this, and you have to do it for you. It's not doing it for somebody else. What you do for yourself, somebody else gets to reap the fruit and the benefit of what you've accomplished, but it has to start with you. And so much of our conversation today really has to do with us, with you. Get to work.
You know, that's that whole space where the most time in our lives should be spent. And I see now why many people look back and say they wish they woulda, coulda, shoulda. And even though that may sound cliche, for all the time you spend doing things for other people and never working on you, that may be the very reason why you in the woulda, coulda, shoulda, didn't, have not bucket. Talk to us about that, Dr. Tierney.
So before I even say that, I want to give this disclaimer out here. This is not what we're saying, Sugar, is not a clarion call for selfishness. Okay. So I don't want you guys to hear this and take this over into the selfishness. I don't need nobody. I ain't finna do nothing for nobody. I'm not finna show up for nobody. No, Sugar. We all need each other. We are better together. Okay. None of us that are sitting here talking to you today got here of our own volition. We all support each other right now today right now as we're talking to you. So please don't take this as a clarion call for you to shut everybody else out, to just focus on yourself totally solely and not do nothing for nobody else. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is that you need to make sure that your cup is full before you start pouring. Okay. Not just to make sure that you have the energy or the time, but to make sure that you're not pouring from a dirty cup. Okay. Because a lot of times we haven't done that internal work and we're pouring, but we might be pouring narcissism. We might be pouring pride. We might be pouring hatred and not really intending to, but because we haven't filled our own cup with love, with peace, with joy, with happiness, you can't pour what you don't have. Okay, so you have to make sure that your cup is full of the things that are nourishing and healthy and for you before you can give that to somebody else, because whatever you are full of, that is what you're going to pour out of. So making sure that you're not looking at this as a clarion call to be selfish. That's not what we're saying. You have to make sure that you are healthy, happy, and whole so that then you show up healthy, happy, and whole in your professions. Your finances are healthy, happy, and whole. Your relationships are healthy and happy and whole. It all starts with you. And that's what we're trying to get you to understand. There's nothing wrong with taking a beat, pulling back. It may mean that you have to pull back from some things. It may mean that you have to tell some things some people know, because again, not every need has your name on it. So you do your own self-assessment. So then you will know when to pour and where to pour. Okay, because you might be pouring out something or somewhere that you ain't supposed to. Okay, we can't make people do anything. We can't make situations change have very limited control. We can only control what we can control. And the only thing we can control is us. So that's what we're asking you to do, Sugar. Focus in on you, not from a point of selfishness, but from a point of making sure that you're happy, healthy, and whole. Then everything and everyone around you will also reflect that.
Can I just push back a little bit?
Please.
So I think part of it is you being selfish. Not to the place of, like Dr. Tierney said, of being narcissistic, but I don't think that there is anything wrong with you being selfish and taking care of you. And part of taking care of you does mean inviting other people in. Right? But part of it is you being selfish. And yeah, you do get to do that. And I think especially as women, because we do give so much of ourselves, I don't think that there's anything wrong with saying this is solely for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I totally.
I do sometimes think that you do get to be selfish, and you get to be selfish unashamedly.
Yeah, like the time I put my ice cream in the refrigerator and put something else over it so nobody else can eat it. Yes, I'm being selfish.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
We've done that. We've done that before. Yes.
There's nothing worse than going to look for your special treat. And your special treat is not there.
Yeah. No,
So it's those, it is. I think that people should see two sides of the same coin.
Exactly.
Society will tell you, as Charlotte said, that it is selfish for you to steal away time for yourself to, let the kids fix a sandwich versus them you fixing a hot meal. But you also need some time to sit over in a chair, drink your tea or your water, and mind your own business and let the kids do whatever kids do when you're taking time for yourself. While at the same time, the other side of the coin is saying, I've got to get me together before I can ask for help from other people. When we come back after the break, I'm going to dive into my reflection. We'll be back in a moment.
Hello, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase, and I'm here with a very important message. We are at a turning point in the Black community where we must have equity in the apps we use that scale to billions of dollars. But this time, we own the infrastructure, we own the culture, and we shape the future. And Fanbase is the future. Fanbase combines the free functionality of Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube into an all-in-one platform built for the evolution of social media and monetization. With over 1.4 million users, that's real proof that we are shifting the conversation of tech ownership and equity for creators. So right now, I want you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase at $665 a share. This marks a turning point in Black ownership of social media. If we don't take this opportunity to own social media right now, we will always be customers to our own creations. And that can't go on. So once again, go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest today. We must own the platforms where our voices live, our stories matter, and where our culture drives the world. Thank you.
Welcome back, everybody. And as you can tell, how we move and breathe in our lives is all a part of where we go and what we do in alignment with who we were created and designed to be. Living a sustainable life, discovering how to balance your feelings and emotions, your goals, your aspirations is all tied in to you taking a good introspective look at yourself and allowing yourself to really feel deeply about who you're in the process of becoming. 2025 set us back on our heels. 2026, we're collecting ourselves, we're gathering ourselves, we're committing ourselves to doing what's best for us. So let me just say, create the life that is meant for you to live and feel comfortable in living it. Thank y'all for watching. Bye now. Pauses don't end us. Okay. On a next, A Balanced Life with me, Dr. Jacquie, we're talking about all things you and the new year. I know 2025 set you on your heels, but here we are, looking forward, moving forward, going to live our best life. So take the time this year to allow yourself to dream big, clarify your aspirations, know where you want to go and who you want to take with you. It's all about you this year, designing the life that you want to live and feeling comfortable in your own skin. That's all next.